Hey guys, welcome everyone to this Git and GitHub session. Am I audible and visible to you? So meanwhile, people are joining. Let me just introduce myself. I am Merak. I am an instructor with Geekster and I have been a software developer for the past 3 years. And yeah, today, as you all know, we'll be studying Git and GitHub. What about you guys? Like, how many of you are already aware of what Git and GitHub is, or you guys are actively using, or you're not using it at all? You just have heard the word. Yes, you can download Git right now. That would be rather helpful. But I'll tell you how to download it either way during the class. But if you download it right now, it should be fine as well. Okay, Vanshika. So you are using it for the past 3 years and you just want to brush up all your concepts. Yeah, that's all right. Need to learn more about it. I have used Sir. Sir, could you please explain the usage of private and public in detail? What do you mean by private and public? In the context of GitHub, Sangeeta? Okay, using it for more information. Access. Again, public repos are accessible to everyone. Private repos are not accessible to everyone. That's the only difference. Difference between Git and GitHub. Yeah, I'll be talking about that. I'll be talking about that. Sir, I created a small project yesterday, but I don't know how to use GitHub. That's why I joined the session. That's great. I think in that case, this session will be helpful. So you already have some experience with what GitHub is. You have used it. But yeah, this would be a good session to get a really in-depth understanding of what is happening. What is Git? Is it different from GitHub or is it the same thing? So on and so forth. A lot of confusion about Git and GitHub concepts. That's okay. That's okay. The primary aim of this session would be to jumpstart Git and GitHub, right? And see what the differences are and get a basic understanding of what is Git, what is GitHub, how are they two different, and how I can use them in my day-to-day life. Yeah. Raja is saying, I don't know anything about Git or GitHub. That's fine. That's completely fine. The whole point of this session would be to, get you started with all of those things. All right. Let's start writing then, shall we? So, the topic, as you may all know, is Git and GitHub. Just a second. Now, how many of you in general know the difference between these two things? Or do you think it's the same thing? Like, I'm pretty sure that you must have heard the word GitHub. I'm not sure if you have heard the word Git. What, according to you, is the case? Are these two same things? Are these different things? Your thoughts on this? Okay, some people are saying not same. Is there someone who thinks they are the same things? Tell me, guys, anything that you feel, that's fine, because it helps you learn, right? So if you think something and I prove it to you that it's not the same thing, then you shall remember it. Okay, this is what I used to think. After the session, I'm quite convinced that this is what it should be. All right. So a lot of people are saying that those are different things, which is actually correct. That those are different things. All right. So by the end of this session, I should be able to say this evidently that okay, Git is one thing and GitHub is one thing. So obviously these are separate things, right? By the end of this session, we should be able to prove that, okay, the assumption that we started with, that, all right, Git and GitHub are different things, I should be instantly able to say, what's the difference? How are they different? Stuff like that, yeah? Shruti will talk about it, like what is Git and what is GitHub. Again, we are just starting with the session, so I'm just giving you a brief introduction about what all we'll be doing in this session, all right? So, two things, Git and GitHub, okay? Obviously, they are separate things, all right? We'll be talking about what is Git first, because that is more important to know before we start with GitHub. All right. A lot of people just jump onto GitHub, but I don't think that's the good way of doing it. It's imperative that you know what is Git and then you begin with what is GitHub. Is that all right? So I'll be talking about Git. Okay. I'll tell something that, okay, this is what Git is. And I will practically show slash prove everything. All right. We'll not be assuming anything at all. Shreyas, yes, you definitely need a GitHub account, but you don't need a Git account. So Git is just a software that you would need to install. Again, um, just focus on the class. Trust me, I'll be pushing the notes, so you can do it separately on your own as well. I would just say to focus on the class and see what I'm doing. All right. So I will practically show you and prove everything that I say. We'll not be making any assumption like, okay, this is what Git is, this does that, or Git does that. No, I'll say some things and I'll actually prove those things that, okay, whatever I said, I'm able to show it to you. Is that okay? All right. After this, we'll be in Git only, we'll be discussing commands. Again, in general, the command list is huge. It would either take months to memorize all the commands and see what they are doing. We don't want to learn all the commands. We at least want to know the basic commands. All right, so that we can start working with Git and GitHub in general. Is that okay? And after I'm done with this, I'll move to GitHub. Obviously, you need an account for this, which is not that difficult to make. I'm pretty sure that you'll be getting this recording as well. So I would advise against creating the account when I'm teaching you. Just listen to what I'm saying. All right. And trust me, you'll be able to do it on your own. I'll be providing the notes as well using GitHub only. So whatever we are learning today, leveraging that, I'll be sharing notes with you. All right. So that would be a good way of testing things out. Don't worry about the notes. I'll be providing the notes of this class using GitHub only. So it should be fine. Whatever we learn today, I'll practically use that to provide you the notes. Yeah, I'll be starting the session in some minutes. Just give me some time. You'll be needing an account for this. I'll demonstrate this and I'll show you the uses. All right. And this is the agenda of the class. We would want to know what is Git, how to work with that, and then we'll move on to GitHub. All right, then let's start, shall we? Let's start with Git. Before I begin, you guys tell me, what do you know about Git? What is the major to having a GitHub account? I don't understand that question. Okay, some people are saying nothing. What about the rest of you? Some people are using a very fancy word, version control system. Let me just write it down, what you guys are saying. So some people are saying version control system. What is the main purpose of having a GitHub account? We'll come to that, Irfan. No, this is not a definition, guys. Free and fast and scalable, that does not help us, right? What do you understand by free, fast, and scalable? You have to tell me the purpose, no? Okay, someone is saying to keep track of our project. I'll just write everything down to see what all you guys are saying, and then I'll say who is correct and who is not. Okay, someone is also saying, wait, okay, no, it's the same thing. It is used for testing and merging. Uh, Not really, not for testing, to hosting our projects. That's wrong. Okay, I'll just write it down. I'll just write it down to host our project. To save the previous history, modifications we have made. Okay, let me just write this down as well. To save history, all right. To connect to a local file to remote. So track the changes. All right, let's just stop for a while. Stop for a while. I have got some basic answers. All right. I would say, let's just figure it out. कौन sahi hai, कौन galat. In general, these 3 points are correct. This point is wrong. Again, I'll be explaining what all of these things mean. Don't worry about them. But in general, these 3 points are mostly correct. All right. But this point to host our project, that is not technically correct. Uh, Again, just saying this from the beginning, both the notes and the recording will be shared. So please stop asking me that. Okay, both the notes and recording will be shared. Okay. Let's try to drill down into what these terms means, right? So the first thing which was absolutely correct is Git is a version control system. All right. It's completely fine if you don't understand these 3 complex words. Let's try to drill them down. Okay. Version. What do I mean by version? Think about it. When you're working on something, can I say that like okay, I have a file. I made some changes to the file. on first day. On the second day, I again made some changes. On the third day, I again made some changes. Can I say that on each day I have a different version of the file? Can I say this? Again, I'm giving a very rudimentary way of understanding what do we mean by versions, right? It's a very basic English term, right? What is version? It's matlab, as the word suggests, it's different forms of something, right? Would you agree? Would you guys agree? What do we mean by a version? It's just different forms of something, right? All right. What do we mean by control? That okay, I have control over all such versions. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Does that make sense, guys? And system is just a word like version control. So Git is a version control system. Git is a system which allows me to have control over all the versions of my project. Okay, I'll demonstrate this. Don't worry about it. I'll demonstrate whatever I'm saying. So Git allows me control over all the versions of my project. Does that make any sense? I'll be providing the notes, Gunjan. Don't worry about it. I'll be giving the notes to you guys. Guys, does this line make any sense to you? As I said, let's say I have a project, right? I'll tell you what I mean by a project as well. Okay. What I'm trying to say is version control system, which is what Git is a way for you to control versions of your project. Does that make any sense? Guys, quickly tell me, does that make sense? Is there anyone who feels that, okay, this is not making sense? How can I have different versions of my project? It does make sense, right? In a project, let's say you have a file. On day two, let's say you have a second file. So there's a version change, right? On day one, you had some version of the project. On day two, you had another version of the project. Would you agree? Right? Git, as the name suggests, version control system, allows me to have control over those versions. Right? All right. Let's take one more example. Maybe this example would make a lot more sense. So if you guys remember in your childhood, you used to play games, right? So let's say you're playing a game, all right? You made some progress in the game and you saved that game. Or can I say you created a checkpoint in the game that, okay, I have done this much, I have completed this much part of the game. Yes. Would you agree? Would you agree? And let's say on day two, you again start from here. Again, notice now you have two checkpoints, right? This is one checkpoint and this is the second checkpoint. So let's say on day two, you want to come again play that game. You can start from anywhere, right? Let's say you start from the latest version of the game and you again did some work in the game and you completed this much and you again created a checkpoint. Would you agree? I'm just taking a very simple game example. Would you agree? So you did something on day one, you did something on day two, and you did something on day three, yes? And you're creating checkpoints in the game. Does that make any sense? Why are you creating checkpoints? Because you're just technically saving your progress, right? Make sense? What's the benefit of such a thing? The benefit of such a thing is you can go to any checkpoint and start from there, right? Or in a better way, you don't have to start from the beginning every time you're playing that game because you have created checkpoints. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense? Right? In other words, you have saved different versions of your progress. Would you agree? Would you agree with this term? You have saved different versions of your progress in the forms of checkpoints. So let's say this is checkpoint 1, this is checkpoint 2, this is checkpoint 3. Yes? Is this example relatable? Tell me. In some way or the other, we have all played games, right? Where we want to save our progress. So we do some work in the game, we create a checkpoint. We do some work in the game, we create a checkpoint. And we keep creating checkpoints, right? Would you agree? What if I have to tell you, what if I were to tell you that Git allows me to do exactly the same? It's exactly the same thing. In some sense, as I'm saving progress in my game by creating checkpoints, Git allows me to create checkpoints of my progress. Does that make any sense? We'll talk about that, Prashant. Just give me a second. Abhi, we are just starting with Git because there are a lot of guys who don't know what is Git. So I'm just starting with it. But again, we should cover Git very soon. Git allows me to do exactly the same. Just like in a game, you were creating progress and you were making a checkpoint, right? To save that progress. Git allows me to do exactly the same. I will do some work in my folder. I would be able to create a checkpoint. I'll do again some work. I'll be able to create a checkpoints. All right. So the basic point that I want to cover is, and I'll show it to you. Git will allow me to create checkpoints of our progress. ठीक है? This is the first thing I would want to prove. Yes, guys, recording share हो जाएगी. Please stop asking me that again and again. Is that okay? I have to prove this to you. Is that all right? If I am able to prove this to you, in some way, I'll be able to prove that Git is in fact a version control system, right? Because if you think about it, these checkpoints are the versions, right? Does that make any sense? These checkpoints are the versions. If I go to a previous checkpoint, I'm on a different version of my project. Yes. Does that make sense? This is what I'm supposed to prove right now. All right. Let's start now. Let's start now with this agenda that I should be able to create checkpoints of my work in a project. ठीक है? Let's start. Before we start, I want you to download something if you don't already have it. So can you just search Git on your system and do you see something like Git Bash? Guys, do you have Git Bash in your system? If you don't, then I can tell you how to download it, but I need to know whether you have it or not. Let's take a screenshot of this. How many of you don't have it? Can you just quickly tell me how many of you don't have it? All right, let's just assume that you don't have it. Let's just assume that you don't have it. So it's not a very complex thing. Just write Git, only write Git here, please, not GitHub. And again, you'll be redirected to this website. Is that okay? And you can just download it from here. It's not a complex step. Git, just press on download and it will start downloading. Again, you need to download it. Without it, you cannot function. You cannot work. Let's just be honest about that. You cannot work without downloading it. There is no hack with that. You have to download it. Just press on download. Again, whatever kind of system you have, based on that, you can click any one of these links and it should work. Amit is saying, how can I confirm? Just look for it. No, if for Git, you're seeing Git bash, that means you have Git in your system. If you're seeing Git bash when you're searching for Git, then you have Git in your system, guys. Is that okay? I have a Mac. We don't care. Okay, okay, you have a Mac. Okay, there is one more way to verify it. In your terminal, CMD, you can just do a git minus minus version. And if you're seeing something like this, then you have Git on your system. You can verify that way as well. In your terminal, just write git minus minus version and it should work. If it is giving you something, that means you have Git in your system. If not, then you don't have it. Yeah, it's showing, that means it's there. All right. Just click on Windows. All right. And according to your system, you can choose anything. I would suggest for 64-bit for Windows setup. Let's see. And most probably the downloading will start. For those who have Git on their system, they don't need to do anything. But if you don't have it, then you definitely need it. What I would suggest is don't do it in the class. I would say that you will be getting the recording, right? Again, downloading it is not that big of a deal. I'll provide you with everything and you can just follow the recording and my notes to continue working after this recording is after this class as well. So don't wait for me right now. I'll just move on for now. Will allow me to create checkpoints of our progress. This is the definition that I wrote. But where are these checkpoints? So when I say progress, when I use the word progress, so what I said was Git will allow me to create checkpoints of my progress. A progress of what? Progress of some project, right? The thing that I'm working on. Would you agree? Would you agree, guys? Progress is always of something, right? Of a project. When I say project, I mean a folder. A folder. That's as simple as that. You may hear the word repository, which is a complex way of saying folder only. Is that okay? Repository just means folder. Is that okay? So I want to track a progress of a project, which is a folder technically. उस folder में जो जो हो रहा है, whatever is happening in that folder, I want to track that progress. Is that okay? Is that okay? Quickly tell me. All right. So let's just create a folder. Let's just create a folder. Let's say new folder and let's call this Git Master Class. If it is too small, again, wait a second. Again, Git Master Class. This is the folder that I've created. All right. And I want to track the progress of this folder by creating checkpoints. Is that okay? Through Git, obviously. Right? Right? Tell me, do you have any concerns right now? No. I want to track the progress of a folder. Let me just write this down as well. So through Git, I have to track progress of what? Some folder or repository. Again, these words mean the same thing. So what I'm trying to say is through Git, what did I say? I'll track my progress by creating checkpoints of each progress, right? That's what I said before. Yes, that's what I said before. What I'm saying is progress of what? Progress of some folder. Another word of folder is repository. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right. So for that purpose, I have created a folder. For those purposes, I have created a folder. Yes. Tell me. And through Git, I'll prove that I'm able to track the changes in this folder. Yes. Right. Right. All right. First of all, let me just create some things here. Let me create a file. Let's say, I don't know, file1.txt. Let me just zoom it a bit. Is this visible to you guys? Is this visible to you guys? I hope it's not too small. Tell me. All right. So I have created a file here. All right. Again, this is just a change. I have done some change, but right now I have not used Git up till now, right? This is something that you would have done a countless time. In a folder, you have created a file and you know about your progress that, all right, I have created a file. That's the only progress that I have. Yes. Again, there is nothing to explain. I have created a folder and in there is a file. There's nothing else to explain right now. And what I'm saying is through Git, I want to create checkpoints of whatever I'm doing. Is that okay? Then how do I start with Git? First of all, in this location, if you have Git downloaded on your system, you will see something like this. Git bash here. Is that okay? Is that okay? Do you see this option Git bash here? Do you see this, guys? All right. Just click on it. Again, this looks a lot like a command prompt only. And if you notice right now, your command prompt is open at this location, Git Masterclass, which is the name of my folder. Yes. Would you guys agree with it, disagree with it? Batao. Tell me. All right. Let's take a screenshot of this for the notes. So again, at this point, if you open the git bash command prompt, you will see something like this, that a command prompt would open with a little bit of different colors because it is very specific for Git. And you will see your folder in here, Git Masterclass. Do you see this? Do you see this, guys? Okay. Now I'll be using the commands and I'll be explaining the commands later. Let's first use them. I'll give you a very rudimentary explanation of what this command is doing, and then we'll deep dive into those commands. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right. So I am at this point. I've opened the git bash command prompt. Yes, yes, it is recorded. Ugh. All right. Let's see. Let me. Okay. First, to use Git. Right now, you have created folders in your system countless times, right? Would you agree that you have created folders in your system countless times? Yes. But you have never used Git in some sense. All right. So right now, let's see. So right now, this is a folder. Yes. This is a folder. This is a folder whose name is Git Masterclass. Yes. Would you agree? This is a folder whose name is Git Masterclass. As simple as that. In order to use Git here, I have to convert this from a regular folder into a Git folder. Is that okay? Is that all right? You have always created regular folders by creating new folder, la la la. Does not matter. Okay? Apart from this, if you want to use Git for a folder to track its progress, you need to convert that folder into a Git folder. All right? Does this make any sense? जो मैंने बोला, are you understanding that okay, I have a regular folder, I can do whatever I want there. If I want to access Git there, I should be able to convert that folder from a regular folder into a Git folder. Is that okay? All right. In order to do this, there is a very simple command, git init. All right. Again, I'll be writing down all the commands separately, so don't worry about it. Let's just first use it, and then we'll deep dive into the commands. Is that okay? Is that okay? Let's try to do git init. Is that okay? You may notice as soon as I wrote this command git init, it created a new folder here whose name is .git. In general, this is not visible because it is hidden by default. So I have allowed the hidden items to be visible, but if I don't allow this, it is not visible. So it's a hidden folder. Chances are that you won't see it when you do a git init. Is that okay? Is that okay, guys? Is that okay? So what did I do to convert a regular folder into a git folder? I simply use the command. Just a second. I simply use the command git init. Is that okay? This is the first command that you have to use in general. Is this much clear? Why did I use git init? To convert my regular folder into a git folder. People use the word repository instead of git. So in order to convert a folder into a git repository. But again, it means the same thing. A regular folder say git folder, if you want to create, you have to do git init. Is that okay? Is that okay? Cool. Right now, it's a Git folder. If that is the case, I should be allowed to run Git commands. Okay? So let's just run some basic Git commands and I'll explain what those commands mean if you don't know it already. Let me do a Git status. Again, you see a lot of things written here. What I want you to focus is, do you see this file 1.txt? This is the same file that I've created. Yes. Right? It is the same file that I've created. What do you think is the purpose of Git status? It just gives you a status of your folder right now, or your Git folder right now. Ki, haan, what has happened in your Git folder? Right now, I can see that there is a file that has been created in my Git folder. Yes, whose name is file1.txt. And if you see in the background, that is in fact the case. Yes. Does that make sense, guys? So the second command I used was git status. We'll talk more about Git status. Right now, my main focus is key. Okay, I said that I should be able to track my progress by creating checkpoints, whether I'm able to do it or not. That is something that I want to show you first, and then we'll deep dive into the commands. Is that okay? Is that okay, guys? All right. So the first change that I have in this folder is that, okay, I have created a file which has nothing inside it. I can quickly show it to you. This file has nothing inside it. I've just created a file. Yes, I have just created a file. Would you agree? Would you agree? Would you agree? All right. My main goal here is to create a checkpoint of this change. This is a change, right? The fact that I have created a file, this is a change. Yes, inside this folder. Would you agree? You have changed something inside this folder. Would you agree with that? All right. Let's create a checkpoint. So again, I'll use two commands. How to do this in Mac OS? Same thing. Open your terminal and just write these commands. It's exactly the same. There's no difference. Create a folder, open the terminal there, and just do git in it and make some file, do any kind of changes there, then do git status. It's exactly the same. There's no difference with it. There's absolutely no difference. All right. All right. Now, my main goal is that, okay, git status shows me that there are some changes in my git folder. My main goal is to somehow create a checkpoint. All right. No, I won't be explaining checkpoints again right now. Maybe in some time I can again explain it, but not right now. So checkpoint, just like in a game, you have checkpoints, right, of your progress. That is what I mean by a checkpoint. Anyway, so let's just go back. So I know that I have some changes in my folder, which is what git status is showing me, right? You have a file1.txt. Yes. Yes. Say yes or no, guys. All right. Now I'll create a checkpoint of this change. I'll create a checkpoint of this change. Let me just do it first and then I'll explain. So I'll do a git add whatever change this is. So let me just say git add file1.txt and then I'll say git commit -m and a meaningful message. Created file1 in first checkpoint and I am done. I know, I have used two commands which I did not explain. That is fine. We'll quickly talk about it. So in order to create a checkpoint, I used two commands, right? I used git add followed by, I wrote something here. I'll explain what that is. So this is some change only. I'll talk about this. And then I did a git commit -m and I wrote some message here, right? Some message. This is what I did. Would you agree with this? This is what I did. Tell me quickly. All right. If I successfully created a checkpoint, I should be able to see that checkpoint. Yes. Would you agree? I should be able to see that checkpoint that, okay, in my folder, I did some work, which was creating a file 1.txt, right? This was a work. I created a checkpoint of that progress, right? Now, if I'm claiming that I have created a checkpoint of that progress, I should be able to see that checkpoint. Yes. Would you agree? How do I do this? Let me quickly show you. You just do a git log, which essentially shows you all the checkpoints that you have created up till this point, and you'll be able to see this. So after git log, do you see something like this? Do you see this? That this author, which is me, whose email ID is this, on this time created a checkpoint whose message was created file 1 in first checkpoint. Do you see this, guys? Do you see this? It gave the timestamp. Yes, it gave the timestamp as well. It gave you everything. Again, I'll be explaining this in a few seconds, but first, please agree with this, that I would be able to create a checkpoint. I'll be doing it several times, Akash. Don't worry about it. I'll be doing it several times. Abhi to we are just beginning. Let me take a screenshot of this. So in general, the fourth step that I did was see the created checkpoint. And for that, I did a git log. All right, let me paste the image here. All right. So what did I do? I made some changes, right? I saw what the changes were made, what changes were made using git status, right? And then somehow I used these two commands to create a checkpoint of that change, right? And then I used git log to see the checkpoint that I have created. Yes. Do you agree with this much? We'll talk about that, Vinny. Don't worry. We'll talk about that. Do you agree with this much, guys? Right? We did some changes. We saw what changes we did. We created a checkpoint of it and we saw the checkpoint. That is what I did. Yes. Right? Now let's try to deep dive. Git init is clear. This is to convert a regular folder. Sangeeta, I'll talk about it. Don't worry. Pavan, just give it some time. Just give it some time. It should be fine. Just allow me to speak. So git init was done to convert your regular folder into a git folder, right? No, Harsha. No, I'll talk about it. Just focus on my voice, what I'm saying right now. Git init was done to convert a regular folder into a git folder. Yes. Would you agree? Right. Then I did git status. I did git status to see what all has changed inside my folder. Let me try to do it again. So let's say I create a new file here. Let's call this file2.txt. All right. I have changed something here. So if I do a git status here, it should show me what has changed. That is the purpose of git status, to show you what has changed inside your folder. Is that okay? Is that okay? The purpose of git status is to show you what has changed inside your folder. As simple as that. Is that okay? I'll be pressing enter. Just wait for a second. Cool. Let me press enter and it will show you that, all right, file2.txt. Something has changed in your folder since your past checkpoint, which is file2.txt. Does this much make sense? No, we don't see all the files in your git status. That is what I'm trying to say. Git status just tells you what has changed in your folder since the past checkpoint. Like what is the new status of the folder? That is what I'm trying to convey here. That is why you just see file2.txt and not both the files, right? Since your past checkpoint, since your past saved work what has changed inside your folder, that is something that git status shows you. Is that okay? Does this much make sense? All right. Would you also agree that, okay, there is some change in your folder, which is file2.txt, and that change, which is file2.txt, has not been, there is no checkpoint created on that change. Would you agree with that? This is just a change, right? So in a game, if you do some progress, the progress is not saved until you save that progress, right? In the form of checkpoints, like saved this much part of the game. Yes. Would you agree with this much? Yes, yes, I'll come to that word as well. Do you get this, guys? Guys, don't raise your hand. Just write your doubts in the chat. I'm reading the chat constantly. All right. Is this much clear? All right. So there is some change, which is file2.txt, and I have not created a checkpoint out of that change. Yes. Would you agree? Guys, I'll be doing this countless times in this session, so don't worry about it. Just focus on what I'm saying. All right. So there is some change and there is no checkpoint created with this progress. Yes. This file2.txt, this is just a change in my folder. I have not created a checkpoint corresponding to this change. Yes. Cool. Now, how do we create checkpoint? As I've already told you, these are the two commands that you will use to create a checkpoint. Is that okay? Is that okay? First, you have to tell Git. First, you have to tell Git that with what change you want to create that checkpoint. So there can be multiple changes, right, in your folder. And if you want to create a checkpoint, you have to tell with what all changes that you have to create that checkpoint. Yes. Does that make sense? ठीक है? So right now, as you can see, I have only one change, which is file2.txt. Yes. First, as you can see in the notes, you have to do git add and the name of your change. What has changed? Is that okay? Is that okay, guys? Cool. So can you quickly tell me what I should do? As in the notes, git add, just write git add followed by your change, which is this. Just copy paste this. All right. You have just selected your change right now. Okay, this is the change with which I have to create my with which I have to create a checkpoint. Is that all right? Is that all right? So far, so good. Now, since you have selected this change, that okay, this is the change with which I want to create a checkpoint, I want to use this command, git commit -m and any meaningful message. That is it. Any meaningful message. So this message will tell you what did you do in this particular checkpoint. All right. So let's quickly try to do that. I've already selected my change, which is file2.txt, with which I want to create a checkpoint. And now I only have to do git commit -m and in inverted quotes, any meaningful message. So something like checkpoint to file to created. Is that okay? Is that okay? Is that okay, guys? Let's try to do this. And I have just created my second checkpoint. What is there in the second checkpoint? This change, file2.txt. Is that okay? Yes, yes. With this command, you just created your checkpoint. That is what I'm repeatedly saying. So in general, you use these two commands in combination to create a checkpoint. You just selected the change with which you want to create a checkpoint. I will be repeating it countless times, guys. Don't worry. Abhi ke liye just tell me if this much is clear or not. So you had some changes in your folder. In order to create a checkpoint, you just use these two commands. Git add followed by the name of your change, which you're seeing in git status, and then just a git commit -m with some meaningful message. Is that okay? and you have just created a second checkpoint. Again, focus on the label, creating a checkpoint. Is this much clear? Is this much clear? Okay. Now, what is the last thing I told you? In order to see all your checkpoints, you can do something like a git log. So again, git log is not creating a checkpoint. You have just created a checkpoint with these two commands. Is this okay? Is this okay, guys? Quickly tell me. Any problems that you are facing on your system, I can look at it in the end. Abhi ke liye just focus on this. Yes. All right. With this, you have already created your second checkpoint. With this command, git log, you can see all your checkpoints. That is what I'm trying to convey here. So how many checkpoints have we created up till this point? Can you quickly tell me? Two. Exactly correct. I have created two checkpoints. All right. So let me quickly verify. So if I do a git log right now, can you see two checkpoints? Can you see two checkpoints? First checkpoint is I created at this time, right? Which is the first checkpoint I created. And this is the checkpoint that I just created, right? You can verify the checkpoints using the commit messages that you gave. Checkpoint 2, file 2 created. Yes. Do you agree? Do you agree, guys? This is the second checkpoint that I just created. Yes. No. No. Sangeeta, no. All right. Again, git log is just to see your checkpoints, right? To create checkpoints, you have to follow something like this. We'll do it multiple times and you'll understand. Trust me. Abhi ke liye just try to understand what I'm doing and then I'll deep dive even further. Git status was to see what all has changed since your last checkpoint. All right. Git and these two commands are used to create a checkpoint. And with git log, you can see all the checkpoints. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense, guys? Any questions right now with what I have said? Git status, see what has changed. These two commands to create a checkpoint. Git log command to see the checkpoint that you just created using these two commands. Yes? Is this much clear? Is this much clear? All right. All right. So, so let's come back to this. So if I now do a git status, what are you guys expecting? Is there any change in this git masterclass folder which has not been part of a checkpoint? Is there any change in this git masterclass folder which is not part of a checkpoint? No, there is no such file. So if I do a git status right now, it will say it will not show you anything basically. Let's just put it that way. You don't see any changes here, right? Which you were seeing earlier in red. Would you agree? Would you agree, guys? Right? So I have been creating checkpoints up till this point. Let's create more such things. We'll continue doing this until it's absolutely clear. All right. So let me now create two files. Let me create two files. So let's say file 3 and let's say file 4. Is that okay? So can I say now I suddenly have two files in my folder which are not part of any checkpoint? Can I say this? Right? So if I right now do a git status, technically I should be able to see these two files, right? Which are not part of any commits. It should show me that there are two files which are not part of any commit. Yes, right? As you can see, it is showing me that. It is showing me two changes. Actually, it is not showing me two files. It is showing me two changes. There is some change which is file 3.txt. There is some change which is file 4.txt. Yes. Is that okay? Is this much clear, guys? Git status just shows you all the changes which are not part of any checkpoint right now. Yes. Is that okay? Are you good so far? I hope git status अभी तक clear हो गया होगा कि what is git status actually doing. Why is it not showing me all the files? Why it is showing me different files at different times? It is just showing you all the changes, not files really. All the changes that have not been considered in a checkpoint up till this point. ठीक है? Now, okay, let's just plan a few things. What I'm trying to do is I have two changes, right? Two changes. One is file 3 and one is file 4. Yes. Yes, I have two changes. Would you agree? Now my plan is, and this will make things a lot more clear. My plan is create two checkpoints, two further checkpoints. Let's say C3 and C4. All right. C3 checkpoint will have the changes corresponding to, let's say F3, which is the file 3. And C4 checkpoint will have the changes corresponding to F4, which is the file 4. Is that okay? Is that okay? Does this make sense? So I want, abhi ke liye I have two changes, right? F3 file and F4 file. Would you agree? Would you agree? And what my plan is, abhi tak I have created two checkpoints. Let's say C1 and C2. That is what I have done. I want to create two more checkpoints. One will have the change corresponding to file 3. One checkpoint will have the change corresponding to file 4. Is the plan clear to you? Is the plan clear, guys? So if I'm able to achieve this and I do a git log, I should be able to see four checkpoints. Yes. Right? Let's quickly try to do this. Let's quickly try to do this. So basically, if I were to repeat, I have two changes right now in my folder or repository, whatever you want to call it. And I want to create a checkpoint which has this change, file3.txt. Then what do I need to do? Right now, just do git add. Let's just quickly review the command. If I want to create a checkpoint, I need to do git add followed by the name of the change. So right now, if I want to just make a commit, I want to make a checkpoint using this change. What do I need to do? First, I need to do git add to select what should be part of the checkpoint. So I want this change to be part of my first checkpoint, right? Git add name of the change. All right, I did this. And then I can do git commit -m and a meaningful message. So let's say third checkpoint file 3 change. Is that okay? Is that okay? Does this make sense, guys? Does this make sense? Quickly tell me. These two commands, okay, sorry about that. These two commands, git add and git commit, are together used to create a checkpoint. Is that okay? Git add is used to select the checkpoint that you're about to create, what changes should be there in that checkpoint. And with this command, you actually create the checkpoint. Is that okay? Is that okay? Let me press enter. All right. So it is showing you, okay, let's forget what it is showing. I have just created one checkpoint with this change, file3.txt. Yes. Would you agree? Would you agree? So how can I see this checkpoint, whether this checkpoint is created or not? How can I see that? Git log, absolutely correct. So let me just do a git log to see what all checkpoints are there in my folder. And as you can see, I can see the third checkpoint, which is something that I just created. Yes. Yes, Mohit, we can. We'll come to that as well. Is this okay? We have just created our third checkpoint with file 3 changes, right? Now I have a quick question for you. what happens if I do a git status at this point? What happens if I do a git status at this point? Remember, git status shows you all the changes which have not been part of a checkpoint right now. Yes, I had created two files, F3 and F4, and I just made a checkpoint of F3 file. I did not create a checkpoint of F4 file, right? So what do you think git status will show me right now? Will it show me nothing? Or will it show me file 3.txt or will it show me file 4.txt? Okay, that makes me very happy. A lot of you are correct. It will show you the changes corresponding to file 4.txt. Why? Because I created two files, right? File 3 and file 4. Then what did I do? With the file 3.txt, I created a checkpoint, right? I created a checkpoint. All right. And what does git status show you? All the changes which are not part of any checkpoint. I did not create any checkpoint corresponding to file 4.txt. Yes. Would you agree? That is why git status is showing you file 4.txt. Is that okay? Is that okay? Let's quickly try to create a checkpoint of file 4.txt as well. So as said, it is quite simple. You can see that, okay, this is a change. You have to first add this change. So git add, you select that, okay, with this change, I want to create a checkpoint. Copy, paste. All right. So I've selected what should be part of the checkpoint, and then I just create the checkpoint. So git commit -m fourth checkpoint uh, file 4 created. All right. At this point, if I want to see all the checkpoints that I've created, what command can I use? Log. Absolutely correct. Git log. And as you can see, let me just increase the length. So as you can see, this is the third checkpoint that I created for file 3.txt. And this is the latest checkpoint that I just created. Can you see this, guys? Can you see this? Quickly tell me. Now, does this make more sense? These commands, what are these commands doing? Git status is, again, you don't need to do git init more than once inside a folder. Git init was to convert a regular folder into a git folder where you can write git commands. So you don't need to do it again and again. Someone was asking, why did we not do it git init again? No, you won't do it. Git init inside a folder only has to be done once. That is it. All right. Once this is done, you can write any git command. So you can do some changes and see and do a git status to actually figure out what has changed in your folder. Yes. Is that okay? Is that okay? And then let's say something has changed and you want to create a checkpoint of that change. You'll do two commands. First, you'll select that change. Okay, that I have to make a checkpoint of this particular change. So git add followed by the name of the change. All right. And then a simple git commit -m followed by some message. Is that okay? Yes, Mahesh, it is absolutely necessary. All right. Once you have created a checkpoint, you can simply see whether the checkpoint was actually created or not by doing a git log, which shows you all the checkpoints that you have created thus far. Does this now make more sense? Is git status, uh, git add, git commit -m, and git log clear to you? Is this much clear to you? Quickly tell me. Cool. Again, when I say, just a second. When I say something has changed in your folder, it can be anything. It's not restricted to, creating files. Let's say, okay, quickly tell me what would happen if I do a git status right now. Quickly tell me what would happen if I do a git status right now. Nothing, right? It will tell you that, okay, there is nothing. Quick thing. And now we are at a point where I can use a technical term. I can use a technical term, which is in Git, checkpoints are commits. So it's just a technical term for checkpoints that you use to create in your games or whatever. Commits is the technical word for checkpoints. Is that okay? So that's why you see this command, git commit -m. So git add just selects what should be part of the next commit that you're about to make. And using this commit, you actually make that commit. Is that okay? Is this much clear? Cool. So let's try to do it again. And this time I'll take a separate example. Let's say again, I have said any change that you make in this folder, Git will be able to track it. So let's say I have written Menak Ghosh here. All right. So can I say that I have done some changes in file1.txt, which have not been committed? Yes, Akash, we can. Right. So if I do a git status right now, would you agree with this observation that, okay, modified something in file1.txt? Would you agree with this? Would you agree with this? All right. Cool. Let me make a commit out of this. I won't be using checkpoints again. I'll be using the word commit. So git first, I'll add this particular change. So file1.txt. I just added it. And again, now to actually make the commit of the selected change, I have to do git commit -m with a meaningful message. All right. So let's say added my name in file1. Yeah, let's just put it that way. And the commit will be made. Is that okay? Is this much clear, guys? How do I see the recent checkpoint that I have created? Git log, absolutely correct. So if you do a git log right now, you'll be able to see the latest commit that you have just created, which is added my name in file1. Is that okay? Is that okay? ठीक है. All right, let's do multiple changes in multiple files and let's try to commit all of them in once. ठीक है, there are two ways to do that. I'll tell you both of them. So let's say in file2.txt, I'm just writing something, does not matter. File2 लिख देता हूँ इस पे. And in file3, let me just write file3. Basically, I have made two changes. मतलब I have made changes to two files inside my folder. Yes. Would you agree with that? Right. So if I do a git status right now, can you see that modified file2.txt, modified file3.txt? Yes. Do you see this? Why am I seeing two files? क्योंकि मैंने दो files में I have changed. I have changed something in file2.txt. I have changed something in file3.txt. Yes. Right. Let's say I want to make a commit with both of these changes. What do? I need to do git add file2.txt. All right. And again, I need to do git add file3.txt. Is that okay? There are different ways to achieve this, but abhi ke liye just tell me, is this understandable? That okay, I selected two files with which our commit should be made. Is that okay? Is that okay? Is that okay? Now, if I want to create a commit of two selected changes, just do git commit -m and any meaningful message. So you've already selected that, okay, these two changes should be part of your commit. That is fine. You just using the git add, you just select like what should be part of your commit. And then you just make that commit. Is that all right? So git commit -m changes in file 2 and file 3. And you are done. As you can see, can you see this? Two files changed. Can you see this? Can you see this, guys? Yes, Harsha, you can commit as many number of files in a single change. Basically, a commit is just a checkpoint, right? You can have any change in that checkpoint. Up till now, we were only having one file change per checkpoint, but there can be a lot of changes in a single commit as well. All right, that is what I have achieved right now. I had two changes inside my folder. I added both of them and then I created a commit. Is that okay? Is this much fine, guys? All right. Let me do a git log. And as you can see, changes in file 2 and file 3. Yes. Can you see this? Can you see this? All right. Let me do a git status at this point. And as expected, I don't see anything because there is no change inside this folder, which is not committed. Yes. Would you agree? All right. All right. I'll show you one more thing here. So, okay, let me do some changes in all the files. So let's say I write C1 here. I write C2 here. I write C3 here. And I write C4 here, right? So if I do a git status at this point, how many changes are you expecting? Just quickly tell me, how many red entries will you see here? 4. Absolutely correct. You'll see 4 changes because I have made changes in all the files, and obviously those changes are not committed. Yes. Would you agree? Would you agree? All right. Now I want to make a commit of all these 4 changes, right? How do we do that? With the last example that I showed you, you can literally do git add file1.txt, git add file2.txt, git add file3.txt, and git add file4.txt, and make a commit out of all the added things, right? You can do that, but there's a better way of doing it. You can simply write git add dot, and this means select all the changes for your next commit. Is that okay? Is that okay? Does that make sense? So you can literally do it separately once at a time. Dot means all. Dot means all. Here the context of dot means git add dot means git add everything. Select all the changes for your next commit. Is that okay? Let's do it. There is one thing I did not show you. Whenever you add something, no, the changes that you just added, if you do a git status right now, again you will see 4 files, right? Because these 4 files have not been committed yet. Would you agree? Would you agree? I have not made a commit yet, right? I have just added them. Is created when you actually do a git commit -m and some commit message, right? I have not committed these changes. Right now, I have just selected these changes to be part of my next commit. Yes. Would you agree? All right. If you do a git status right now, I know that you're expecting that you will see these 4 files, but git bash is a bit better because it will give you a hint that, okay, you can still see these 4 files, but the color has changed because these files have been added for your next commit. So whatever you add, you will see it in green instead of red. But obviously, this is still uncommitted changes. That is why when you're doing a git status, you're seeing all these changes. Is that clear? Git status shows you uncommitted changes. That is fine. It still shows you that, okay, these 4 files are not committed. That is fine. But right now it has changed the color. Why? Because you have literally selected these changes for your next commit. So the color changes if you do a git add something and then you try to do a git status. So whatever you have added, the color is in green. Is that much clear? Is that much clear, guys? Okay. Let's make a commit out of this. Git commit -m and just give some meaningful commit message. Um, uh, just used git sorry git add dot to show adding all changes. All right, and as you can see, 4 files have changed corresponding to this commit. Yes. Is this much clear, guys? And if I do a git log, you will see the latest commit on top. Can you see this? I hope things are much more clear now. Let me take a screenshot of this. Mm, Let me take a screenshot of this because I want to explain you something even further. ठीक है? तो yeah, so far so good. I will be giving you all of this notes through GitHub, so don't worry about it. Sir, what about the past checkpoints? You can see it, no? So this is the latest checkpoint. The one that came before it is this one. The one that came before that is this one, so on and so forth. These are all arranged in descending order of time. The latest, then the one before that, then the one before that. Can't you see this? The first one, sir. So again, it is showing you a limited list. You have to scroll down. So if you keep pressing the down arrow, you can see all the previous commits as well. All right. Cool. Up till this point, I hope things are clear. Can we see particular commit? Sure, you can. Just scroll the list, no? You have given these meaningful messages to identify that particular commit. So you can obviously see them or go through them. Is that okay? Is this much clear, guys? Tell me. I'll do it one final time and then I'll move on. I'll do it one final time. Akash, your question makes no sense. You're saying, can I see the commit that I want? If you already know the commit that you want, then why would you see it? No? Again, we'll talk about commits in general, but again, that question is not making a lot of sense to me right now. Anyway, let's see. I'll do it just one last time and things should be clear. Okay. Let's say, what change should I make? Let's say A1. Any change does not matter. How to return to command line? Taskbar say just select this. You will return to the command line. I Let's do some changes in all the files again. A1, A2, uh, A3, A4. Is that okay? Is that okay? Right? I have made some changes in all the files. But your task right now is to create checkpoints, to create two checkpoints. One checkpoint should, sorry, you have to create two commits. One commit will contain the changes of first two files. The second commit will contain the change of these two files. Is that okay? Is that okay? All right. Let's first do a git status. And as you can see, I can see that all the files have been modified. So there are changes in all these files which have not been committed. Yes, right? Is that okay? Right? Now I want to create a commit using the changes of the first two file. If that is the case, I have to select those changes. So let's do a git add. Exactly. Git add file1.txt, and similar to that, git add file2.txt. Right? If now, why did I choose this example? If you do a git status right now, first tell me how many entries will you see? How many entries will you see? No, I'm not asking about any color right now. How many entries will you see? Absolute no. Whoever is writing two, you are dead wrong. You will see four entries, no, because all these changes have not been committed yet. You will see four entries. But out of these four entries, you have just added two files or selected two files for your commit. So these two files or these two changes should be visible in green, and these two things will still be visible in red. Yes? Would you agree? Would you agree? Is this what you were expecting? Is this what you were expecting? Right? Let's take a screenshot of this. Let's take a screenshot of this. All right. So these two things must have been added, and these are not added yet. right? So at this point, if you create a commit, what will happen? With what all changes would be considered for that commit? Can I say these changes would be considered for that commit, right? Green price, all right. So let's quickly try to do that. So I have selected what all has to be part of the commit. Let's just do a git commit -m and two files, 1 and 2 are changed. All right, you can see two files have been changed corresponding to this particular commit. Yes, right? Would you agree? Would you agree? All right. So if I do a git log right now, do you see the latest commit? Two files, 1 and 2 are changed. Can you see this? The more interesting question right now is what happens if I do a git status right now? How many entries do you expect to see? Two. Absolutely correct. File 3 and file 4, which have not been committed yet, and they have not been added also. That is why you're seeing them in red. Is that okay? Is that okay? Right? Let's just quickly add and commit them. So I want these two things to be added, right? And there is nothing else. So can I just simply use git add dot to add everything, right? Right? Let's do a git status again. I'm seeing both of them in green. That means these must be ready for a commit. Yes, right? Let me just commit it. Git commit -m F3 and F4 have been committed and done. Two files changed. Let's do a git log. And as you can see, this is the latest commit that I have. Yes. Would you agree? Would you agree? I hope now it must be making some sense that, okay, I am able to create change commits out of all my changes, right? Right? Okay, cool. This is what I wanted to show you about Git in general, that, okay, you can, let's quickly go back. Basically, when you're creating commits, no, you're creating different versions, no? That, okay, in first commit, this happened. In second commit, this happened. In third commit, this happened. So on and so forth. Right? Is this much clear? Again, can you keep a track of your project? I think you can. I think you can. This is right. Because if you think about it, if you added meaningful messages in your commit, you can just do a git log and see what you have done. Okay, in the latest commit, F3 and F4 have been, again, this is not a good commit message, but if you think about it, let me just do a git log and just try to see all the changes. So in my first commit, I created a file 1. In my second commit, I created a file 2, so on and so forth. So can I see I have somehow created a history of my project by these commits or checkpoints, whatever you might want to call them? Can I say this? Can I say this, guys? Right? So this point is correct. I have this point was anyway not correct. And to save history, again, same point, right? These 2 points are the same things. To save history, in some way, I have created some sort of a history of all the changes that I have done inside this folder. Yes, would you agree? Would you agree? Right? All right. Let's come to the next point then. In general, guys, are you seeing this thing? Let me just. Do you see this thing master written over here? Let's try to talk about this. So as you can see that inside my folder, I had something like this. You know, let's say some C1 commit, and then some C2 commit, and then some C3 commit, and then some C4 commit, so on and so forth. Can you see this? Matlab, technically, I can say this, right? That in my folder, I have some C1 commit. After that, some C2 commit came. After that, some C3 commit came, so on and so forth. I can say this, right? Quickly tell me. This sequence of commits, which is leading up to what you are seeing inside the folder right now, is known as a branch. sequence of commits. Is that okay? Does that make sense? So if you watch movies like Marvel or DC, I'm not sure if you watch them. You must have noticed this word being used a lot, timelines, right? So whatever happens in a timeline leads to that timeline, right? Okay, that this is a timeline. Some events happened which leads to that. Okay, this is a particular timeline. If some other events happened, then that would result in a different timeline. Yes? Would you agree with that? Think about it. These events are technically what I mean by commits, no? And this sequence of events or commits would lead to a timeline or a branch. Would you agree? Would you agree? These checkpoint or these commits can be compared with events that happen on a timeline, right? And the whole sequence of events or checkpoints or commits, whatever you might want to call them, which led to whatever happened is a branch or a timeline. Does that make any sense? So if something different happened, a different timeline would have been created, no? How many of you relate with this? Quickly tell me. How many of you relate with this? In very simple terms, the commits that I've created, because of those commits, you are seeing whatever is there, right? So first commit, this change was there. In second commit, this change were there, so on and so forth. All I'm saying is a very simple thing. This sequence of commit, C1, C2, C3, C4, la 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 la, is what I mean by a branch. Is that okay? This is what we mean by a branch, a sequence of commits. Is that okay? Right? So when I did a git init, I was given a default branch with 0 commits and whose name was master. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So let's see if I have that in here. In here, I did not have any branch, right? I did a git init and I was given a default branch, master, which had 0 commits. And then whatever commits I made were made on that master branch. Is that okay? Is that okay? Quickly tell me, does that make sense? All right. And since then, you can see I can always see this master written everywhere, right? Can you see this? Can you see this, guys? Okay, everywhere master is written because that is the branch I'm working on. All the commits that I'm making now are being made on that master branch. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? When I did a git init, it gave me a default branch with 0 commits whose name was master. Yes. Does that much make sense? Please tell me. Okay. Can we change branch name? Sure we can, but not right now. Sure we can. ठीक है. I want to tell you one more thing. I was keeping you in the dark. When I said git log, what did I say? What was git log? Did I say it shows all the commits? Did I say this? Did I say this? I said this, right? Not completely correct. Not completely correct. It shows you all the commits of the branch you are standing on. This is the actual definition of git log. It shows you all the commits of the branch you are standing on or current branch. So if I again do a git log, maybe now it will make more sense. Git log is technically showing you the branch, which is a sequence of commits, right? Can you see this? And right now, there is a pointer head which points to your latest commit. Is that okay? Is this much clear? Is this much clear, guys? Which points to your latest commit. Yes. That is why head is at this place. Head is at the tip of your master branch, which is the latest commit. Yes. Would you agree with this? So git log technically shows you the current branch, which is in general a sequence of commits, right? Right. So this is just a pointer which points to the latest commit. भाई कितनी बार मांगोगे यार रिकॉर्डिंग, अभी सुन लो ना वीडियो. Anyway, anyway, if that is the case, think about it. This is where things get interesting. If head is by default pointing to the latest event or latest commit, what will happen if I shift this head to some previous commit? Because technically head ही है जो हमें दिखता है. Head is what I actually see. So if I am on head, I am seeing all the changes made till this commit, till head. Is that okay? Is that okay? Wherever head is, till that commit, I'll see everything. Think about the implications of this. If somehow I was able to move this head in some previous commit, I can act as a time traveler, no? In this folder. Think about it. What I'm trying to say here is, जहां भी head होता है, wherever the head is at, you see all the changes up till that particular commit. जहां पर head है. Is that okay? Right now, head is at the latest commit. So you're seeing all the changes up till this point. But if somehow head can be moved back, I can literally act as a time traveler in my Git history, right? अगर head तक I can see everything that has happened, I can just shift the head back in the past and I can see all the changes done up till that point. Let's quickly try to do that. Let's quickly try to do that. So right now head is pointing to the latest commit, right? That is why I see all the changes done up till this point. Yes. Done up till this time, 2313 la 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 la. Yes. Would you agree? No, Harsha, it's not lost. I'll tell you about it. ठीक है. थिंक ऑफ इट एज अ टाइम ट्रैवलर. मुझे टाइम में वापस जाना है. ठीक है. तो लेट्स से आई वांट टू गो बैक टू लेट्स से दिस this second commit that I created. So if I remember correctly, second commit I just had these two files, right? File 1 and file 2 with nothing in them. Yes. Yes. ठीक है. Let's say I want to go back to this commit. I want to act as a time traveler. How do I do that? Just write git checkout and some way to identify which commit do you want to go back to. So if you notice, each commit has a unique commit ID. Yes. Do you see this? Each commit has a unique commit ID. Do you see this, guys? ठीक है. तो if I want to go to this second commit, let's just select this commit ID and let me paste it here. Git checkout. I want to go to this particular commit ID. Let's press enter. And can you see in the background, somehow in this folder, I was able to time travel back to a particular commit. Yes. Can you see this? Think about it. Isn't this what we mean by version control? I had different versions which were how were you identifying those versions? Through checkpoints, right? Through checkpoints. This was one version, this was the second version, stuff like that. Right? Think about this. You are literally acting as a time traveler. All the events that led to what you were seeing in the folder, that is fine. How do you identify an event? By a commit. कि इस commit में ये हुआ था, इस commit में ये हुआ था, stuff like that. And somehow now, since you can uniquely identify each commit with their commit ID, you can literally go back to a particular commit in the past and see कि उस commit में exactly क्या हुआ था. Think about how powerful that is. If you're asking me what's the use of this, There's a very good use. So in general, Git and GitHub coding के लिए use होता है. So if some code was not working, you can go in the past and literally now you are in a previous state of your code and you can run this code and figure out what happened here. Why was it working at this point? If not, let me try to go in the future and see if it is working, stuff like that. Can I say this, guys? Were you able to somehow time travel back to the past? Can I say this? So right now you're in the past. If you want to again go back to where you came from, you just write git checkout. Acha, first let me do a git log. Git log. Do you see right now that the head is at your second commit? So you have technically just moved the head, yes? Can I say this? Right? If you want to go to your original state, like the latest commit, just write git checkout and name of the branch. And now you are again at your latest commit. Matlab, you're back to the time where you came from. And as you can see in the background, all the latest changes are there. Is that okay? Is that okay? कितने लोगों को अभी समझ आया? Now let's go back to what we initially discussed. Version control system. Do I have control over the versions? I think I do. What are the different versions? Commits are the different versions, right? Commits are the different versions, yes. Right? Am I able to jump back to a previous commit? Can I go here and there? Am I able to do that? Yes, I think I'm able to do that. Am I able to keep track of my project? Definitely. Since I have a history of my project in the form of commits, right? I can definitely keep track ki kiske baad what happened. Yes. Would you agree? I know GitHub will happen. Don't worry about it. And obviously, to save history, if you're creating commits, you're technically creating history as well, right? Would you agree? Would you agree? All right. Now, mostly there is a lot to cover. Git is not that small, but abhi tak if you're able to do this, I'm fine with it. If you're able to do at least this much, like commits banana seek gaye, you're able to jump back and forth in commits to see what happened in a particular commits, I'm pretty fine with it. At this point, this is Git. जो भी मैंने यहाँ पर लिखा था, apart from this, was absolutely correct. This is what is Git used for. Is that okay? Is this much clear? Now let's try to talk about GitHub a bit. GitHub को try करते हैं. What is GitHub? Quickly tell me. क्या पता है? What do you know about GitHub? Anything that you know, that's fine. You can quickly tell me. Absolutely correct, Mahesh. Absolutely correct. I would go with Mahesh's answer. Open source. It's not just open source. Again, you should be able to explain it in a way that I just explained to you. जो भी तुम कह रहे हो, you should be able to prove it. Right now, if someone is asking you what is GitHub, you should not say open source directly. All right. In general, can you see that this folder is something that I have created in my system? Can I say this? Can I say this, guys? That this folder, Git Masterclass, is something that I have created in my system? Quickly tell me, right? And this is where all the history of this project is because it is a Git folder as well. Can I say that as well? All right. GitHub, in its very basic form, is just a platform to keep Git folders. That is it. That is it. So right now, quick yes or no. Can you access this folder? Do you have any control over this folder? This is on my machine, right? So can you access this folder? Yes or no? Okay, wait. Shreyas is saying yes. How, Shreyas? How can you access something that is on my system? I don't think you can. So he'll know you're wrong. Whoever is saying yes, you are dead wrong. Obviously you can't. How can you? It's on my system. No, you don't have any access to my system, right? So I can say that this particular folder or this Git folder is local to my machine. Yes. Can I say this? These words are very heavily used. So the एक second, let me use a different pen. अरे भाई, I can access through GitHub. How can you access it? Tell me. I have not added it on GitHub. Then how can you access it? Right now, the GitHub is not in the scene, no? I'm just asking you right now, with the things that we have done right now, can you access this folder? Obviously not. Obviously not. Right? The folder, or rather, the Git folder that I created is local. This is the keyword to my machine. Yes. Can I say this? Can I say this? Again, this is a very fancy way of saying कि it's local to my machine. In other words, what I'm trying to say is this is restricted to my machine, and obviously you cannot access it, right? Right? But what did I say GitHub was? GitHub is a public platform. First of all, it's a website. Okay? Git is a tool that is there on my machine. GitHub is a website which keeps Git folder. ये जो Git folder मैंने बनाया है, this was a regular folder. I did a Git init to convert it into a Git folder. Yes. Can I say that? Can I say that? GitHub is just a hosting website which keeps Git folders. Once it is on GitHub, then it is accessible by everyone. That is what GitHub is. So what is more important? I think Git is more important because it allows you version control, मतलब version control, history and everything. GitHub क्या है? GitHub पे you can only put this folder on GitHub. Is that okay? There is a lot more, I know, but abhi ke liye GitHub pe you can just put this folder, and from there anyone can get that folder on their machine and start working on it. Does that make sense? Ajit, your question is wrong. I think you meant folders. Yes, I would agree. On GitHub, you can only put Git folders. So this was a regular folder. In order to put it on GitHub, you have to convert it into a Git folder, and then only you can upload it. Is that okay? All right. So right now, I'm going to use two words. Quickly tell me if you understand them. One is local, one is remote. Second, rukna. Local means my system. Remote means on a public, somewhere public, like GitHub. Yes, Mahesh, we can. ठीक है. Local means my system. ठीक है. That मतलब whatever I have done up till this point. And remote means, let's say, GitHub. So something public. Is that okay? Or rather, a public version of my Git folder. Is that okay? Is that okay? So basically, I have my Git Masterclass wala folder, which is obviously a Git repository or a Git folder, whatever you might want to call it. And what I would ideally want to do is, I would want to create a copy of this on GitHub so that everyone can see it. ऐसा नहीं कि I would pick this up and put it there, so it's not here. It's not like that. I would create a copy of this and put it on GitHub so that everyone can access it. Is that okay? Quick question. If it is actually a copy, ठीक है, मतलब let's say मेरे machine पे, in my machine, I have a folder, all right, and I'm saying on GitHub I'll create a copy of what I have in my local machine on GitHub. That is what I'm saying, right? So after that, if I made some changes in my local folder, local Git folder, would those changes be reflected on GitHub as well directly? Tell me. Some people are saying yes, some people are saying no. Obviously, no. That is what I'm saying. No, it's a copy. So let's say this was my folder, which is in my machine, right? On GitHub, I created a copy of this folder and put it there, right? Those are completely separate things. Now, if I made some changes in my local folder, which is on my machine, would the GitHub folder also have those changes? Not automatically. Not until I put those changes there. Is that okay? Is that okay? That is why I'm using the word copy. Whatever is there on GitHub, it would be a copy of my Git folder that I have on my machine. If I want my changes, the new changes to go there, I have to explicitly push those changes there. No, we cannot sync it, Mahesh. We have to do it manually. We have to manually push the new changes that are there on my local machine onto GitHub. Is that okay? Does that make sense, guys? All right. Let's quickly see how we can do that. So, in general, our work locally is done, right? I'll just give you a set of commands, and that should be rather helpful. So let's say GitHub. First of all, I'll have to open GitHub. Is that okay? What did I say a repository was? A repository is just a folder, right? Can I say that? Repository is just a folder. Yes. Right? So if I'm saying that I want to copy all the content in my Git folder onto GitHub, I need to create a repository here as well, in which I'll have the same content which I have here. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Right? All right. Let's create a folder on GitHub. So let's just press this new. Any name does not matter. Let's say, let's just use the same name. Git um, Masterclass. Is that okay? Okay, you can give some description, completely up to you. You can select whether this repository is public or private. For now, since you guys are beginners, I would say just go with public. All right. And that is the minimum thing that you need to do, and just create a repository. So when you do a create a repository, you'll see some complex things here. Ignore it for now. All you have done is created a folder whose name is Git Masterclass. And what is your final aim? Your final aim is whatever is in here should be there on GitHub, or a copy of all the changes that you have in your Git folder. They should be there on GitHub as well. Yes, that is what we aim at, right? Make sense? All right. For that to happen, I need to do a series of steps, which are quite logical if you think about it. Sangeeta, no, I won't be explaining it right now, and it's not necessary. Okay. So first of all, I need to tell my local repository what is its remote counterpart. Does that make any sense? So basically what I'm trying to do here is this folder is technically this folder Git Masterclass. Yes. Would you agree? That is the whole point, right? Because I want to connect some remote folder with my local folder. Yes. Agreed. So somehow my local folder should know which GitHub folder is it connected to. Yes. Would you agree? Would you agree? Quickly tell me. If I want to say that, okay, this is local, this is remote, these should be connected, right? In order to, there should be some sort of connection, basically. Let's just put it that way. Is that okay? All right, cool. So all you need to do is, can you see this link here? This is the unique identification of this GitHub repository. Is that okay? Is that okay, guys? Why don't I see your charts? Okay, just select this, and let's go back here. All right. And now what am I trying to do? I'm trying to connect with this local repository, this local folder, Git Masterclass, with what is already there on GitHub, the repository I just created on GitHub. So basically what I need to write is git remote add, git remote add. A name of your choice, like what do you want to call that remote repository? Let's call it origin, because that is the industry standard. Usually the remote is known as origin. What am I connected to? Origin. In other words, it's just an alias for this link, a new name for this link. So in general, this GitHub repository is uniquely identified with by this link. Yes. All right. But you don't want to use this link again and again in your local terminal. So what do? You are saying that, okay, hey, I want to connect to this remote repository. That is fine. And from now on, I'll call it origin. Is that okay? ठीक है, this is just an alias. A lot of people have memorized कि अच्छा origin ही होता है. Not necessarily true. It can be anything that you want. Any name can come instead of origin. Is that okay? So basically, my local folder should be connected to this remote repository whom I'm calling origin. Is that okay? Is that okay? Let's quickly try to do that. All right. Something happened. I don't know what happened. To check if the connection was in fact made, you should do git remote -v, like whether you're connected to some remote or not, some remote repository or not. If you do this, you should get this, that okay, you are connected to this remote repository whose name is origin according to you. Yes. Is that okay? I'll show you, Sangeeta, that. मतलब ideally that should not be a question. समझ आ जाना चाहिए था. But anyway, does this make sense? This is मतलब this is technically just showing you which remote repository are you connected to. Yes. I can break that connection as well by saying git remote rm and just the name of my uh, remote, which is origin right now. If I do this, I'm saying the connection is broken. How do I verify the connection is broken? I can again do git remote -v and it will show me nothing. Earlier it was showing me something because I had established a connection. Yes. Yes. Now I have broken the connection. So that's why it's showing me nothing. Let's again try to establish a connection. So basically I'm saying that I want to establish a connection with this particular GitHub repository. So let's quickly do that. So git remote add any name. Let's say for now, I call it Menak. It could be any name, not necessarily origin. By industry standard, it is known as origin. It can be any name. Git remote add Menak and just the link. So basically what I'm trying to say here, I want to connect to this remote GitHub folder and I'll keep calling this Menak whenever I'm referring to it. Is that okay? Is this much clear, guys? Is this much clear? All right. If I again do a git remote -v, you can see that I'm connected to this GitHub repository whom I'm calling Menak right now. Again, this could be origin. This could be any word in your English dictionary. Yes. Not dictionary, matlab any English word it could be. Does that make sense? Now, now, if I'm connected to this remote repository, I can literally push my branch onto GitHub. Is that okay? Does that make sense? How do I do that? A very simple command, git push. I want to push. Where do I want to push? I want to push to the remote repository whom I'm calling Menak. Again, if it was origin, then I can just write origin here. So let's just say I want to push my branch onto Menak, but you also have to specify which branch. So there could be multiple branches. I know that we did not cover that, but right now the name of my branch is master. So let's just call master. So basically what I'm writing here is git push where to this repository whom you are calling as Menak. You can just do a git remote -v to check what that repository is, right? And what do you want to push? This branch. That is what I want to push. Let's do a enter. It says that it has done something. Let's quickly go to GitHub and see what has happened. Can you see everything that I had locally in my folder in here? Can you see this? Not only that, it is an exact replica of what I had in my local folder. If you can see, there are 9 commits here. And these are all the commits that I had made locally. So you're not only sharing your content on GitHub, you are technically sharing everything. Your project, which is the folder, the whole commit history, everything you're sharing. Sheetal, then you must have done something wrong. Does this much make sense? Does this much make sense? GitHub in its core is just a hosting platform for Git repositories. So Git repositories would be made locally by developers only, no? They'll just keep committing their work. Mahesh, I think you can easily Google that, how to change your branch name. I'm not discussing that right now. You have asked that for 20 times right now. You can easily Google that. It's a very simple command. I would want to shift my focus to the core of Git and GitHub and not a particular command. Is this much clear, guys? GitHub in its purest sense is just a hosting platform for keeping Git folders. But I am able to push something on GitHub. What's the use? The use is, let's say you are someone else. You are someone else. Let's for a second assume that, hey, I'm a completely new developer and I don't know anything about this local machine. Let's just assume that this is a local machine. All right. So what would I ideally do? I would do a new folder and I would want that, okay, hey, whatever is there on GitHub, I would want that on my machine. Is that okay? Is that okay? Right? I would want that on my machine. So what do I need to do? Let me just assume that this is a completely different system, right? And in this different system, someone must have created this folder. What he can do here is, again, open git bash, all right, and just write git clone. Let's go back here and use the same link. So in this code part, let's just copy this code. This is the same link which you used to connect to this particular folder. All right. So you can again use this same link and do a git clone. Just write this git clone followed by the name of the remote repository, which is the link. Sheetal, you must not have committed your changes. That's why it is showing this. Take a git clone and the name of the or the link of that particular git folder. All right. Let's press enter. And you will literally get the whole folder which was there on GitHub on your local machine. So whoever is the creator was pushing this change. Right now, you have brought what was there on GitHub on your particular machine. And as you can see, I have all the changes here. Does this make sense? So with GitHub, what you can do, the creator can push his changes onto GitHub, and let's say someone new, right, can get all the changes that are there on GitHub on their particular machine. And this is how collaboration works. No, fork and clone are definitely not the same things. Does this make sense, whatever I said? I'll just take 5 more minutes, guys, and then I'll wrap it up. Whatever I said, does that make sense? Okay. The creator will work on something on their local machine, right? They'll put it on GitHub, right? And from GitHub, anyone can clone that particular folder onto their machines. And that is how collaboration works. Does that make sense? All right. Again, I know I have not written the commands here. I'll be pushing everything. Remote to push the code in GitHub. No. I think you're confusing something, Sangeeta. Remote is just a public space where I can push and get things from. Okay, it's not just for pushing. All right. So basically, I was talking about getting something that is already on GitHub. All right. So I did a git clone to get anything that I want. What does git clone do? I would like to write this. Git clone followed by some link just copies from GitHub to my machine. Does that make sense? GitHub to local. Absolutely right, Mahesh. GitHub to local machine. That is what it is doing when I'm doing a git clone. But not exactly. There is a difference. So a lot of people might have heard about pulling. Is cloning and pulling the same thing? Absolutely not. And this is where the difference lies. Cloning is something that you just do once. Cloning is something that you just do once. So for the first time, if you want to get something that is there on GitHub, you clone it onto your machine. Nahi, Sheetal, I'm not again explaining how to make a commit. No. I'll push this notes and you can just refer to these notes. So what am I discussing right now? You must have heard the word cloning and pulling, right? Right now I made a clone. Why? Because I'm just copying everything which is there on GitHub onto my machine. Yes. Would you guys agree with that? Would you guys agree with that? ठीक है? So basically what happened was this whole folder which was there on GitHub came on my machine, right? And if you notice here, I have all the changes. Let's open git bash here. How do I know if this particular folder is connected to a remote? I think as I showed you a few minutes back, you can do a git remote -v, right? Again, assuming that this is a completely separate machine which is trying to get some code which is already there on GitHub. From that perspective, as soon as I did a git clone of something that is there on GitHub, I can see that, okay, I got everything and I'm connected to this remote repository. And by default, since I did a clone, by default, the name of the remote counterpart is origin. Is that okay? Is that okay? If you do a git log here, you will see the history because you just copied everything that was there on GitHub onto your local machine. Yes. Sangeeta, I'll talk about pull and clone because you have not set a alias name. So again, someone is asking ki, why is it showing origin here? Because before that was some other machine, right? Which was the creator machine that was pushing their code on GitHub. For them, the remote counterpart's name was Manak. But when you make a clone, you have not mentioned what you want to call the remote counterpart. So by default, it tells you origin, that the name of your remote counterpart is by default origin. Is that okay? So again, as said, this is just a copy of what was there on GitHub. All right. All right. And this is something that you do for the first time to get everything that was there on GitHub on your particular machine. Yes, this is cloning. What is pulling? What is pulling? So let's say you have already cloned something and some changes happened on GitHub, right? कुछ GitHub पे change हो गया, something changed, some change happened on GitHub, and you want to get that change. For that, you do a pull. So let's try to do that. Let's try to do that. So let's say this was my creator folder, right? This is how I was creating, and this is where I'm getting those changes from GitHub, right? Would you agree? Would you agree? So let me make some changes. Let me make some changes here. Let's say I am deleting this file 4.txt. This is also a change. Let's see. This would be the last concept today. If I do a git status at this point, I am seeing deleted file 4.txt. Yes, that is what I'm seeing. Yes. And let's do a git add dot. Let's do a git status again. And I can see it's in green, right? No, it does not, Mohammed. Okay. Let's commit this change. So something like deleted file 4. Okay. This is the latest commit that I have made. All right. Now, is this change on GitHub? Have I pushed this change to GitHub? This is something that I have done locally on my machine, right? As a creator. Would you agree? Right? Let's quickly check. Let's do a git log here. I can see that the latest commit is deleted file 4. Yes, this is the latest commit. Let's quickly check GitHub. What's the latest commit on GitHub? It is saying F3 and F4 have been committed is the latest change, which happened 42 minutes ago. Yes. So obviously the change that I've done locally is not on GitHub. How will it be on GitHub if I push that change? So I need to check what my remote counterpart is. So git remote -v. Okay, I can see that on my particular machine, the name of my remote counterpart is Menak. So basically, how do I push? Git push, just write this much. Where do you want to push? I want to push to Menak. All right. And what do you want to push? Your master branch. All right. And as you can see, something happened. Something happened. And if I come here and reload, can you see deleted file 4? This commit is now there on GitHub as well. Yes. Do you see this? Right? If I go back to the code, you can see that file 4 is no longer there because the latest commit deleted the file 4. Yes. Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that? So basically, what did the creator do? He made some changes and pushed those changes to GitHub. Yes. Right. Now, let's talk about a fellow developer. Okay, he had cloned, so he's already connected to the remote counterpart, right? Does this guy have the latest changes? Let's see. Okay, I can already see file4.txt is already there. And if I open git bash here and try to do a git log, I can see that the latest commit is not there, right? Deleted file 4 is not here. So basically, creator pushed some changes to GitHub, right? And there is some developer on some other machine who has no idea that something has changed on GitHub, right? Would you agree? Would you agree? How does he get these changes? If he does a git clone, it will again create a whole copy of what was there on GitHub. Do I want that? I don't think so. I don't want to create a whole copy of what was there on GitHub, right? Git clone just creates whatever was there on GitHub on your machine. That is not what I want. That is not what I want. I just want that, okay, I'm connected to some remote counterpart. I have some of its changes. I just want what has changed on GitHub. I just want to pull the updates which I don't have, and they are there on GitHub. That is what I want. Yes. I don't want the whole folder again, which git clone technically does. I just want the updates which happened on some remote repository which I'm connected to. Would you agree? Right. So if I do a git pull from where? Okay, first I need to see what am I connected to? Git remote -v. And okay, it seems that I'm connected to this link whose name is origin. So if I do a git pull, all right, pull from where? I want to pull from origin. From which branch? Master branch. Let's see what happens. Can you see this file4.txt to minus minus? Matlab something was removed from file4.txt. And if you notice in the background, file 4 is gone. So the latest commit which was there on GitHub now came to this developer's machine as well. Yes. Would you agree with that? And if I do a git log at this point, you can see that the latest commit, which was not there in this developers folder, is now there. Yes. This is how collaboration works. Someone pushes something to GitHub, someone pulls something from GitHub, and so on and so forth. That would be it for today's class. I'm sorry I took a bit of extra time, but that would be it. Can you tell this again? I don't think we have the time. I would just suggest watching the recording. Okay, this would be it for today's class. In general, I would want to help you guys. Just give me a second, yeah. I know some of you were facing issues and I was counting on that. So if you are downloading Git for the first time, you need to do something like this. So let's say you've downloaded Git, you're able to open Git bash. You need to set some things like what is your username and what is your email address. I think you guys some of you were facing issues in this, right? Some of you were facing issues in this. Would you agree? Arey, don't say thank you, just agree or disagree. How many of you were facing issues with this? This is what you have to do. I can put it in the chat so that you can copy it from there. So it's not that big of a deal. If you are doing it for the first time, you need to tell Git like what's your name and what's your email address is. Yeah, that is the only thing that you have to do, and everything will start working after that. All right. Most importantly, just wait for a second. How will I share these notes to you? Think about it. I have a Git folder with you, right? Okay, let's just share this Git folder with you. Git Masterclass. No. Just listen to me. Just listen to me. This Git folder, I can literally take screenshots of all the images and all the files and all the commands, and I'll just push it to this Git repository, right? This GitHub repository, and you can literally clone it and get all the notes, right? Exactly what I did in this class. Tell me. So that would be a good practice as well. Okay, I have pasted the link in the chat. Keep this GitHub repository. All right. I think in the evening or tomorrow, just open it and you'll see all the images and the notes that and the commands that I have used today. I'll push onto this remote repository and you can literally do a clone and get all of that in your local machine. Is that okay? Gitanjali is saying, please explain the difference between git commit and git push. Git commit is used to create a checkpoint in your local machine and git push is used to push whatever you have in your local machine to GitHub. So completely different things. Yeah, I'm sorry for extending the class. If you have any questions, now would be the time. Otherwise, we can wrap this session up. If you want to connect with me, I can also show you my LinkedIn profile. And we can connect there as well if you're not able to access your... okay, I have forgotten my password, it seems. But again, okay, so you can connect me from here as well. If you are facing any issues with the GitHub account or anything, I can just help you there as well. But in general, it should not be a problem. So the link that I have given you, you can just git clone that link and you'll get everything. Sir, will you provide certificate? I won't be providing certificate, but Geekster will be providing you the certificate. Is that okay? Do you want to ask me any more questions? It's only a 1 day session. Yes, it's a 1 day session. How can we get certificate? Geekster will let you know. Don't worry about it. Link note, sir. That is what I just gave you, no? This GitHub repository, I'm again pasting it in the chat. I will push all the notes and the commands in this particular repository only. And as I have taught you in the class, you can literally do a git clone and the link of this repository to get everything in your system. So you can access the notes from this repository only. I'll push it in some time. I hope that makes sense, guys. This would be a good practice in general of whatever we have done. Any more questions, guys, which I can help you with? Any more questions? All right. If not, then I shall be taking your leave. I hope this session was helpful for you. What about recording class, sir? Again, Geekster will provide that to you. Don't worry about it. So Geekster will give you the recording. I personally won't give you the recording. Oh, it's the same question. When did we get the certificate? Again, Geekster will contact you for the certificate. Thanks, Pawan. I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate the feedback. Please fill the feedback form, guys. It really helps us to improve stuff for future sessions. And through that, we are connected to you as well. So we can just intimate you about future sessions as well. All right. So that would be it. I hope you have no more questions for me. I'll be taking your leave. And yeah, that would be all. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for attending. Bye-bye and see you later.